Going on, guys? Welcome to the comic shop. Need a higher stand, but what we're going to be working on today is just a little bit of sanding, just like in the title. So this is the Pokeball, the Master Ball. I'm pretty sure you guys have seen this in my shorts. Typically I don't print with white filament just for this reason, because it's kind of hard to see everything. But you can see I got some, there we go, some rings right there. This one doesn't really matter too much because it's going to be on the inside, but I still kind of want to clean this up a little bit. Some of the smaller letters, the smaller letter that goes in. Right now it doesn't fit perfectly, so I just want to sand that down so that goes in a little bit easier. And then you can see I have a small little ring there. Like I said, just work with me, guys. I know it's kind of hard to see on this white, but I'm going to be sanding that down and adding some Bondo in there. Same with this button. And this one I'm probably going to do another live as well for the paint. Just because I don't think I'm gonna spray paint this one. I think I'm gonna use like an acrylic paint and just paint this over. And I think that's gonna come out with a good effect and show you guys something a little different. So typically with this stuff there, if I see something like that, like I said, it's kind of hard to see the depth of it. It's not super revealing, but I would have to add so many layers of Bondo or spot putty over this with primer that it doesn't really make any sense to just skip over this. So typically with the main shell, something that you're going to be really looking at, I want to come out perfect and I want it to look as smooth as possible. So to get that, I started with 80 grit. 80 grit for PLA Plus. I feel like it was just like made for it. It just smoothens everything to like an even consistent texture. And most of the layer lines that you get, 80 grit is gonna definitely knock that down. I haven't had to go like any lower than this, like to 70 or 40. That would like tear some of this print up, but this here is going to go away. So if you've seen the Cade 6 video that came out now, you know that my method to doing this when sanding is to go in circles, small circles, just to even everything up as best as I can. Now normally I would be using my sanding block, but this is so small that I might switch over, but I just don't want to use that much sandpaper or cut out that much sandpaper. So just basically that quick. I really wish I didn't do this white, but you can already see it going away. Switch up the angle. It's not going to completely disappear, but what I want to do is, like I said, make everything the same consistency as far as the surface. So that way when I do add my primer and I do add like a slight layer of spot putty, then it'll really like cover this, it'll really get into the grooves. You'll also see like inside the circle, there's like these little hairs. So anything like that, this is a piece where things are gonna have to fit into place. So I wanna make sure that everything is smooth, so that way everything just slides in. There's no bumping or anything like that. See, I kind of like move all over the place. But this one really isn't going to take much. So anywhere where there's going to be a piece that goes in here, so I want to get that nice and smooth. Just little things like that, just paying attention to the small details. folding up the paper as best as you can to get into those places to make it a little bit easier for you. So in places like this, you can even use a nail filer. If you have a nail filer at home, you can even use something like that to help you. So all that over extrusion, all of that nonsense that might be left from your brim or anything that's overhanging, this 80 is going to take it out perfect. This is the first layer of sanding, I like to call it. So I'm not trying to knock everything out because this, again, is white. So it's kind of hard to see everything. But I want to get this tacky and I want to knock down the big stuff. So that way when I add my first layer of primer, everything else from there, well, the primer 1 is going to stick a lot easier. And 2, everything from there is going to show, but it's not going to be as much work. So I never just go from like printing straight to primer. It's going to mess up your print. Your print's going to look ugly. It's going to look clumpy because the primer's not going to stick the right way. So it's always best to sand it first. Same way someone would do if they're painting your home. They want to just come over and just add the paint right on it and just be like, oh, job's done. They will clean the surface, get everything prepped, and then go in from there. Can be a little time consuming, so I always say you don't have to do everything at once, just do as much as you can and just like increase your stamina from there. If you start to feel like you're getting annoyed or anything, I would highly say just stop, because then you're going to be rushing and just be like, all right, that looks good enough. Never just good enough if you have to say that to yourself. Just keep going. And then you can see, like I said, I know it's hard to see with the white filament, but you can see that little ring that was there in the middle is now gone and it's pretty flat, along with the rest of the ball. So that was the main thing that I was looking for or to achieve. From here, I'll wet it, rinse it and clean off all the dust. You can use some wet and dry sandpaper. I just ran out. But wet and dry sand in this and then using the hand paint would definitely be something that I would highly recommend, because that's going to give like a super good finish. For wet and dry, I recommend staying within 400 to 800. You can go up to 1,000, but you just don't want to sand the prop too fine. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but you don't want to get it too primed or too flattened, and then same thing, your paints won't come out as good because it won't be able to stick to the surface. So this ball has that same ring. So you see what it was before, and you see with just a little bit of elbow grease how it's gone after. So now we're just going to copy the same thing on this ball. And the reason I do that is, as you can see, it's getting a little bit worn down. I want to make sure that the faces of the shell with the little piece that I cut out can actually do the main pieces, and then whatever else is like good from there, I'll use on those. So I just try to make sure I get the most out of everything. This underball, I was kind of thinking of just keeping it white and maybe just using like a clear coat. But if I have the top cleared out with paint, I just didn't feel like, I don't feel like it's gonna really give it the pop. I will try that though, one print, just try to change up some settings that I have and see if I can make something that looks good, that doesn't need to be sanded. Even though some of the prints that I make do come out that way, but still the tint and everything is still got its thing. So for this ball, I'm kind of standing at the top and then like working my way down like that, going around. This ball is gonna be white. So white shows everything, so you really want to get this part as best as you can. Boom, starting to look smooth. So this is what I call my initial layer. You can see it's a workout. I break a sweat. Now it's just a nice warm day and I got this hoodie on. Usually I got my fan on, but I'll mess up the audio. So what I try to do is I try to first at least feel the texture, make sure everything feels smooth, and then just look for anything that I might have missed. So like I said, I really wish I did not do this in white filament. It's real hard to see. But you'll start to see the parts where you did hit and where you didn't, because they'll still look kind of like glossy and shiny. So you just want to make sure you get those spots. All right, so that's looking good for me. You can see how you can't see that little ring as good as you could before, like how you can on this. So it just shows you the difference. Those are the first two. So now from here, like I said, rinse these off. And then I would definitely add the primer, especially since these are white. I would add the primer on these after I rinse them off. That way I can start to see the little smaller lines that I can't see now. Those will start to reveal to me. I'll start to see where I need to add some like Bondo, spot putty, any touch up, anything like that. And then from there, I'll just keep adding up or going up on the grit. So since I knocked all the big stuff down, I have 180 grit sandpaper. I wouldn't do that because doing those thick of grits when it's not that much, when there's not that much to fix, it's just gonna it's gonna start to strip everything. You're gonna start to get newer layer lines, you're gonna start to dig into the print. So once I do the 80, after that I go up to 220. So 220 just gives it like, you can hear the difference, but it just gives it like that smooth, soft touch to it. If I see any like bigger lines after adding the primer, then yes, I'll still hit it back with the 80. But like I said, I just want to keep doing 80, 180s, doing those lower grits and keep digging into this. Just buff it out as you see you need, and then like I said, that's where the spot putty starts to get those little things that are like annoying you, where it's like it won't go away. I'm still gonna have to do a little bit on the inside of this one. I won't even pick that up at all. Oh, there we go. As you can see, there's a lot of trash in there. And what that's gonna do is it's gonna interfere when I have this shell and I have this poking out. So I'm gonna have to sand that down so that way that fits nice and smooth. And I still wanna get around the edges because there was still a little brim on the actual print itself. From the 220, this is where you can like become like a master. You can go to like the 400 wet and dry or 400 dry sandpaper. From 400, like I said, 800 is the highest that I will go. But that's basically the method of how I start to prime or how I start to sand something that's really rough. No matter how ugly it looks, you can always save it. I did remake this Iron Batman helmet, and this thing looked like garbage at first. As you can see, there was a lot of like, this was the first wearable helmet that I made. You can see there's a lot of cuts that I made, a lot of parts that I had to solder. It didn't look the best. It's dusty now because it's old, but I show you in that video how I refurbished everything using 80 grit sandpaper. So definitely get some 80, get some 220, and then get some 400. Those would be the grits that I highly recommend to really like get your print looking really good. From there, fillers, I would recommend, I tried wood filler when I first started, but it takes a long time to dry, and the texture of it when it does dry is very clumpy. That I didn't really like, and it took a long time to sand that back down and keep adding that stuff. Me personally, I didn't like the wood filler. Once I got some Bondo and spot putty, I really like those because those go on nice and smooth and they dry a lot faster. So get a lot better texture and a lot quicker result with something that I really like. So that's why I always recommend those two as a combo. Bondo is something that I use for bigger gaps, and then spot putty to get up in those spots. So there you go for those two. But besides that, this video is going to be coming to you guys very shortly. I really like this file. As you can see with the hinge, they made the hinge like I'm going to be able to just put regular filament in there, and that's going to be the hinge to open this up. And then it has a button to open up as well. But hope that video helped you guys, just to give you like a basics of how to take something from looking like this, all like chewed up and nasty looking, to something more like this where it's nice and smooth. Again, I know it's white filament, so it's kind of hard to see, but the process you'll be able to see within yourself. So besides that, stay tuned guys, because I have a lot more videos, a lot more PCB tutorials, a lot more electronics. We're getting into a lot more stuff. Stay tuned, hit the sub button, hit the like button, join the family. If this video helped you, then definitely like as well. Besides that, it's BC Comics. Peace.